Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to do a bit of a long-awaited video. And this video is going to be on one topic in particular. What keyword I, consider to be the best teams in Wuthering Waves. It's no joke at all that in a lot of like my Q&A sessions with the community editor, maybe show some of the thumbnails up here, I oftentimes talk about the best units for people to pull on their accounts. People always ask, what unit should I pull next? And I think that this video over here, because we're going to be talking about teams instead of individual units, will probably be a great resource for people to, get directed to in order to sort of preemptively answer those types of questions. So with that, and without further ado, let's go ahead and get it started by talking about, well, how we're going to be ranking the stuff. So I've got a couple of categories, and maybe, we'll do like some editing stuff to get it on the screen. But the categories that I will be talking about when it comes to how the teams are going to be ranked will be split up into 4 buckets. We're going to have the raw damage of the team. It's, basically how much DPS it's doing, across its rotations. Then we're going to have the survivability of the team. Essentially, how good do you have to be at dodging? Or is it a team with a lot of iframes? Is it a team that has, a lot of built-in stagnation mechanics that slow the enemy down so you don't really have to dodge or, worry too much? And what about the grouping? That's going to be the third category. How good does the team do in AoE-based content? And attacks that are very, long range, that are very wide area, will also be technically considered as grouping as well, right? Because what's the need of grouping if your attacks have so much AoE that you're hitting everything on the screen regardless? Our last bucket, the fourth one, is going to be a pretty simple one. It's ease of use. How easy are the characters to play in the team? Do you have to play giga sweaty, or do you have to really practice certain mechanics in order to use the team well? And if that's the case, then that's going to be a bit of a knock on the score, right? Because we are really thinking about it from the beginner perspective for this one. If somebody's asking who they should pull next, chances are they're maybe not the most knowledgeable about the game's mechanics. So now that we got all those clarifications, all those rankings out of the way, let's start going through the list. And the way that I'll be going through some of these lists is going to be really simple. I'm going to start off with our honorable mentions. Teams that won't really go into the top 5, but are still within my top 10 sort of teams. So let's go ahead. Let's talk about my first honorable mention team. And that's going to be the Spectrofrazzle Zani Phoebe Shorekeeper team. This, in my opinion, is a team that is unfortunately, while really, really, really good and that it deals a lot of damage, I think it falls down in a couple of areas that makes it not necessarily within my top 5 teams overall. It is still in the honorable mentions, but I don't really recommend this team for any new player in the game. And the reason for that is kind of simple, guys. This team has a lot of damage, but it's kind of bad when it comes to things like survivability, grouping, and ease of use. The damage is really good if you can play the team well, but it's also Zani kind of is a bit of a face tanky unit. She does have parries and blocks built into her kit, but oftentimes she can be a struggle to play for a lot of people, especially in content that hits really hard. And yes, I know she can block attacks and stuff like that, but the end result is that other parts of your rotation end up getting delayed. You have little bits of time stop. You're not able to use your certain nightfall attack chains if you block the attack. Sometimes it's better to hold down. She's got a lot of technicality in her kit, and she's basically the only unit that's getting on-fielded in this team because Phoebe does no damage. So it's kind of like a one-person team. The investments that you have on your Zani matter a lot, but then it also has the weakness, at least on the ease of use and grouping side, where Zani is not really that great at grouping, but she does have very big AoE attacks, but she also doesn't have a lot of gap closing. She does track the enemies somewhat decently, but there are bosses in the game where Zani, for example, think about the Mia boss, right? Think about the Lady of... that's actually going to be a good demonstration of this team. Let me actually do a bit of a quick demo with this team. You'll notice that my gameplay does actually reflect my take on the character. I haven't used Zani in a very long time. I haven't used this team in a very long time because I don't really have a lot of fun playing it. And so it's been quite literally months since I've actually slotted all these characters on. I don't even know where half the pieces are and shit. Okay, I think we're relatively okay here. So let me go ahead. Let me just show you all a little bit of, like, the frustration that's awaiting for you and why I don't rank this team particularly that high. Where is it? Boss challenge. Lady of the Sea. You'll probably notice why I'm going for this boss in particular. I've had a lot of commentary about its moveset. So, let's go ahead. Let's see what this team looks like when you, well, have a boss that doesn't really interact that well with Zani. So, the way that this team typically rotates is you start off on your Shorekeeper, right? Then you're going to go over to your Phoebe. Use your Absolution, or your Confession mode. Do your attacks. Okay, unfortunately, right. My Phoebe has no energy. So, we'll make sure that we get Phoebe's Liberation. Dear God. We got it. And now we're going to go on to our Zani, right? Are you beginning to see what the issue with this character is? I didn't even need to get into my ultimate, and you already saw what the problem was. Her gap closing isn't that good. And, well, you run into situations where you'll miss like half of your attacks against a mobile boss. And, like, that eats into her DPS like fucking crazy. Any boss that flies, any boss that, like, jumps back, even the Impermanence Heron, ends up with her just swinging at fucking air. And when she swings at air, she's extending her rotation time like fucking crazy. And the end result is that, yes, her damage per rotation is high, but her rotation time can just be artificially extended because, A, she won't, like, use her blaze. She won't, like, use her blaze on missed attacks. And so that Forte bar, right, that you activate during your Liberation, it's basically like it takes forever to go down. And it's low-key a similar situation to Camellia, but Camellia's easier to hit stuff with than Azani. The end result is that, like, this character, guys, does a lot of damage, feels really flashy, but is just oftentimes more unwieldy to play. And the other part of it is, if Zani dies or if Zani gets hit, Zani's the character that's on field for, like, a majority of this team's rotation. And so it's kind of just like, if she dies, it's, I mean, obviously, if any character dies, it's kind of cooked. But it's like, she's up close and personal, and you can see her animations are kind of fucking long. It's easy to get hit during them, or you have to dodge out, and then you're griefing other resources in your kit. So you're encouraged to face tank. So, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's retry this boss now that we have all of our resources. I think there were some people in chat talking about, oh, why is your bar not full? That's because we're in the overworld. And that means that it's not like the TOA where you get all your resources immediately. This isn't a Zani problem. This boss itself is a problem. That's true, but Zani feels especially bad against, like, vertically challenging bosses. All right. Here we go. Now let's just show it off a full rotation and see the pitfalls that you'll run into. Okay, well, we broke it. We broke it with a regular rotation, so it's not like we're really going to see some issues. We'll wait for it to recover, start doing some attacks, because naturally, I'll just finish it off while it's immobile. And let's imagine that I just, like, liberate... What is it doing, bro? Let's just imagine I, like, liberation over here. What am I doing here? What am I doing during my Zot? Did you just, like, what do you do? Like, what? Am I gonna dodge, then swing afterwards, and then miss those attacks? What is this character going to do there? I dodge it, and then miss my swing afterwards because it's 700 feet away? Even if you dodge there, you're cooked. You can't do anything. And then it's so far away, Zani can't even get there to parry the boss before it begins the attack. She can't even parry the boss after those attacks because it's too fucking far away. Okay, and yes, I know that Zani can parry with her E. Imagine the parry's on cooldown because you did this attack, okay? You did this one to open up. I don't need to say anymore. I don't need to say anymore. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. I don't need to demonstrate anymore the problems with that character and how they could show up. I don't need to do it. That's it. That's the gold. That's the gold fucking standard right there. Right there. There you go, bucko. What else do I need to say? Zani has an issue against quite a few bosses with any sort of vertical moveset. That's an example of it. It's more than just Mia. It's not. I know Mia has that issue with a lot of other characters, but Zani has more bosses that she feels bad against. Quite a few more. So yeah, that is going to be one of the reasons for why I, once again, the Zani team is in the, what's it called? Honorable mentions. But yeah, won't necessarily be one that is at the top. So there you go. That's one example of a team. With the honorable mentions over, now let's start going into my number 5 ranked team. And this one is probably going to piss some people off. We're keeping Chacona in here, but my number 5 ranked team, ladies and gentlemen, is actually going to be the Arrow Erosion team. And this is the thing. Yes, Cartethyia is only going to be the 5th best team, in my opinion. But the reason for that is quite simple. This team is one of the best Tower of Adversity teams. One of the best ones. But this team is unironically kind of bad in Wuthering Waves. And I think a lot of people are realizing that by now. Cartethia's damage output essentially being dependent on the number of arrow erosion stacks that the enemy has is a massive downside when Chacona doesn't apply them fast enough in WuWa. Like, she's got her Liberation, right? Which is a lot of backloaded damage. But while she's in Fleur-de-Lis form, all of her attacks consume arrow erosion to deal damage to enemies. And then she, like, spreads arrow erosion as well, right? When she does certain attacks. The problem is that when the HP of these guys, like, went up, and then Chacona only does 1 arrow erosion stack a second, it's like your damage just really isn't there in the game mode. But when you're in TOA, where Chacona's applying 1 stack a second for 20 seconds, right? And then Cartethyia is just consuming them like crazy. You're consuming and then refreshing a max stacked out arrow erosion boss with every single one of Cartethia's attacks. It has 6 stacks of erosion. They're never going down, and Cartethyia is detonating a stack every single time she does an attack chain. The end result is that in the TOA, this team pops off because Cartethia's damage stays really consistent. She ends it all with a nuke, and then on her next rotation, right, it's back at 6 when she goes in. She just doesn't have that in WuWa. And, like, you'll never reasonably get stacks up to 6 in, like, a good way during Cartethia's rotation, and, like, her damage just feels really off in the game mode. So, yeah, a lot of it is due to, like, the backloading of her kit. There's no issues at all. But also a significant part of it is just, like, how different the arrow erosion buildup is when she's in WuWa. And that weakness alone, to me, is, like, it's a little bit rough for her to have, like, this much of, like, a restriction. It feels a little bit like main DPS Phoebe in WuWa, which is awful, but not as bad, right? It's Cartethyia can, like, apply her own stuff. You could do some quick swapping things to, like, you know, make it better for your clear. But for, like, beginners, for people that aren't that good at the game, I'm just gonna be honest, guys. This is mainly a TOA team. It doesn't do that well in Wuthering Waves. And without, like, a token sponsoring Cartethyia, essentially, people are beginning to see a lot more clearly she's not that great of a WuWa character. Kind of like a trend that we have across, like, the Sentinels of the region. So that'll be that one. That's team number 5. I don't think I really need to do any gameplay demonstrations to literally, you know, say what I'm talking about. I think we've already shown enough in-game for, you know, this one to be the case. I would rank this team across all the different metrics that I talked about. It is at the top, right? First or second place for raw damage. The survivability of it is okay because Fleur-de-Lis like in the air, and then she also heals herself, and Arrow Rover's healing isn't bad. I would rate the survivability like a 4 out of 5, but Cartethyia can feel squishy, especially because her defense stat is super low, and she is taking up the most time on the field. And then, you know, Arrow Rover doesn't have healing unless you go on them as a character. So that can make the on-fielding process for Cartethyia a little bit tricky if you're playing her for the first couple of times. So yeah, I'll give her survivability like a 3 out of 5. And then when it comes to grouping, I mean, let's be real here. The grouping is not the problem. It's the damage that gets done to the grouped enemies. And so because her damage to like grouped enemies that are regularly spawning isn't like that great, even though 2 of the characters on this team have grouping, it's like the end result of the grouping isn't that good. So I'll probably call it like a 2, 3 out of 5 there. And then when it comes to ease of use, I don't even think this team feels like that good to play. I think this team kind of feels honestly a little bit shitty to play. Cartethyia and Chakota feel fine, but Arrow Rover has to be one of the most dog shit kits to use in the fucking game. And so I would rate it kind of low on like the ease of use side because you gotta play this fucking character. Like, bro, using this guy makes me want to low-key like not... This is part of the reason why I don't play this team anymore. I don't fucking like using Arrow Rover's kit. I feel like I'm in molasses playing this guy. I despise it. So, like, yeah, it's just having to, like, use these 2 annoying-ass attacks that deal no damage to, like, rotate throughout the team is just frustrating. It's just, I don't like this character. I don't like playing this character. And it's, like, the character's, like, hard to play, but then feels like they're not very rewarding at all for the effort that you're putting into timing their air attacks to not get, like, knocked out of the air by a light breeze. I think this team is, like, low-key a bait for some people. Some people really like it. If you really like Cartethyia, go for it. But it doesn't... There are a lot of other teams that can replicate the TOA performance, but this is like not a good WuWa team. That's why it's at number 5. It's still a very high ranked one. It's still one of the highest damaging ones, but it's not one of my most recommended ones. Now, let's go into team number 4. Team number 4, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the Carlotta team. I consider this to be the 4th, maybe even the 3rd best team in the game. And the reason for that is quite simple. This is, without a doubt, like the most brain dead, like you take a sheet, a T-Seer, a Theory Crafter sheet, you take this to gameplay, you can basically replicate a rotation that's on a Theory Crafter sheet. This team basically has iframes. It has time stop. It has invulnerability while in the air for Carlotta while she's doing a plunge. It has, like, freeze. It has CC. It has, like, mobility, survivability. Like, this team is basically... It doesn't have the highest damage in the game. It has really bad grouping, non-existent grouping, if we're frankly being honest. But in terms of the metrics ease of use, it's a 5 out of 5. And survivability, it's a 5 out of 5. Like, this team's... I would say damage-wise... This is a 4 out of 5 team. Survivability, 5. Ease of use, 5. And then grouping, 1. But it is unmatched in the survivability and ease of use category. There is no other team that is going to rank this high for those metrics. And the thing is it's just, my Carlotta is S4. Yes, that's not why I'm saying the team is strong. It's because this is probably the most brain-dead DPS in the game, where I think you could put her rotation into a script, and it would replicate it perfectly. You could literally script this character, and I'm pretty sure get it on, like, a 1-to-1, like, perfect sort of ratio. Because you can literally just, like... I think some people don't know what Carlotta's dodge animation looks like, because you never gotta use it. Because she's either invulnerable or in the middle of an animation where she's invulnerable the entire fucking time. And then she even dashes backward. You can choose the direction she dashes in when she's firing off her shots. So it's like you almost never use a dodge on the unit anyways. Then you got the sub DPS, right? You got the Jeja, or I forgot. She also got CC built into a resident skill too. She got CC that lasts for 1.5 seconds because she needed more survivability, I guess. When she got built-in invulnerability on her plunge attacks. And like, she got iframe on her forte. Like, it's just, this character is so brain dead, it's unbelievable. And the only weakness she has is that she's one of the best premier TOA or bossing characters. Because you know that issue we talked about with Zani, right? Where sometimes you can miss a lot of the attacks, it's a pain, all that, right? Carlotta, I don't think it's possible to miss an attack unless you're in the overworld. I think literally in the TOA arena, with the size of it, I don't think you can miss an attack. I think everything is guaranteed to land. There's not enough range for like the auto tracking, the auto targeting to not work. She actually has like an aimbot built in. You can't fuck up her rotation in the TOA. But other characters like Zani, you can. You can miss damage. You can miss attacks. You can extend your rotation. With Carlotta, it's like impossible because everything is guaranteed to land all of the time. She literally can't miss. So yeah, that's gonna be that. There's a reason why I recommend her as the #1, like, skill issue, wheelchair player, beginner sort of, like, deal. It's like, this character will allow you to clear all of the endgame modes, except maybe WuWa, because it's gotten significantly harder. You should be able to clear every endgame mode aside from WuWa if you have this unit and you have, like, the team to go with her. I also forgot to talk about the other member of this team, Jeja. Yeah, this is probably the easiest sub-DPS character to play in the game, too. All you do is you do one basic attack chain, then you intro skill in on her, and then you just press all of her buttons. You do a couple of jump cancels, and then her rotation takes like 2 seconds. You also have an easier time grinding your echoes for Carlotta because her outro skill, or her inherent skill, Jeja's, it makes it so Carlotta only needs 1 ER roll across her entire set, and she's good to go because of this passive. And if you guys want an example of how brain dead easy this team is to play, I mean, you already know by now. You already know by now, but fuck it, let's show it anyways. Let's cosplay Galbraina and go visit Fleur de Lis. So once again, my Carlotta is S4, but it shouldn't matter too much for the sake of this overview. I kind of griefed that, but it's fine. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done that Jeja part, but yeah, that's a little bit of sweatiness right there. Like, the pre-rotation setup is like the only part that you can mess up on. Oh my gosh, wait, she had a pull attack there. Otherwise, it's just, brother, you're just doing this over and over again. And so, yes, there are like a couple of attacks that can like hit you. But otherwise, it's like, brother, this team is just one of the most brainless ones ever. Then you got like this whole like jump cancel thing you can do. And you're just like going ahead and... Oh, shit. Ah, I missed one shot. That's why I didn't have my liberation. But yeah, I mean, that's really just it. Imagine that you just have to do that twice. My S4 is not even doing anything there. You want to know why? Because I still had 4 shots of the liberation and then the 5th final shot. So it's just like, even if I was S0, she's just dead there at the end of that rotation. That's kind of like the thing, right? That's kind of like the difference here. And it's just like the character is automatic. However, her grouping, her AoE damage is not really that great. She's very single target oriented. Jeja doesn't have any grouping. Shorekeeper's grouping doesn't cut it in WuWa. And so that's why the team's only a #4, because it's not that great, right? It's not that amazing in other game modes. So yeah, we give it all the ratings and stuff. Now let's move on to team #3. And this one is a little bit variable. Team #3 is going to be this. It's going to be Augusta, Shorekeeper, and of course, right, oddly enough, Mortifi. So this is going to be the take. This is team #3. It could go up to team #2 or 1 after Yuno releases. This team is really good for a couple of reasons. And one of the reasons that I'll say it's really, really, really good is because the damage is incredible. The damage is very, very, very high. And there's like a mix of other factors where the damage is really good. The survivability is rough. But the grouping is also really, really, really good if you know how to use her properly in Wuthering Waves. And when it comes to ease of use, this is one of the easiest characters in the game to play. Quite literally, one of the easiest characters to play in the game, but she does have some survivability issues at the same time. Because she's got one of the most brain-dead rotations ever. You just gotta know the right time to use her rotations. And once you do, once you identify what those right times are, the actual execution of her kit is ridiculously fucking easy. So let me just go ahead. It probably is better to just like show you all firsthand exactly what I'm talking about. Like this character is just entirely focused around. This character is literally just, you go in, you go out, you go outro skill to outro skill, to outro skill, to outro skill, to outro skill, to outro. That's it. You just cycle from your support all the way to Augusta, back to your support, back to Augusta, over and over and over, right? It's like the Carlotta team. Except the thing is that Augusta's kit doesn't work properly unless you do this exact ordering. She's intentionally designed to be like a 1, 2, 3 character, and her rotation on field is almost equally as simple. So let's just go ahead. Let's break it all down. So you just start off on this character, right? You do all your fun stuff. Then you just go over to Mortiphy. Build up his concerto, right? You intro in heavy attack, skill, and then heavy attack, right? The problem over here is that I got hit during that. She does have some interruptible animations. And that's the issue with Augusta, is that her rotation is really easy, but she has a lot of interruptible animations. And the problem can be, well, using those attacks against a really aggressive boss like Fleur-de-Lis. Fleur-de-Lis is potentially one of the bosses that attacks the most in the TOA. But there are a lot more bosses that have way more open, like, DPS windows. And so this is an example of a boss where you just gotta know the right time to be pressing parts of her kit. Because otherwise, right, she can get a bit stuffed. But when you do all the presses correctly, and let me just demonstrate what it looks like when you do, right? It's like she feels actually brain dead to play. When you're using her properly in the right circumstances, with the right timings. So yeah, you just do 2 heavy attacks, right? And then you got this. You do your enhanced skill. And then you just, like, liberation, right? And, like, that's pretty much it. It's like heavy attack, skill, heavy attack. Then you use your regular liberation. Then you have your unlocked skill, right? And then you just use the enhanced skill. And it's just like, okay, like, I'm not, like, doing rocket science over here to make this rotation happen. And then she does a lot of damage in the process. She also has an incredible amount of AoE on her baseline kit. And this is also the thing, guys. Augusta also has a little bit of grouping, too. Yeah, she's got a little bit of grouping on some of her attacks. She doesn't cause the enemies to, like, spread out. And once you get the hang of her rotation... I'm just gonna be real, guys. She's a really easy character to use. Really, really, really easy character to use. So yeah, we basically 2-rotate that guy. We, like, missed out on, like, a crit or something somewhere. But yeah, she has a very simplistic moveset. It's just she has some timing issues. I will say, the reason why I'm ranking this team above Carlotta is because I am sort of estimating in the future value of Yuno, because we know exactly what Yuno's kit is going to include. Mortiphy right now has a 38% heavy attack damage amp. Yuno will give Augusta 50% heavy attack damage amp and 40% more damage amp on top of it. So basically, Yuno will give Augusta 90% damage amp. Mortiphy will give her 38% damage amp and 20% attack. I think 90% damage amp is going to be a higher increase than 38% amp and 20% attack. That's just my take. But that is what is slating to be available when Augusta comes out. And so that's why I'm just putting Augusta into number 3, because of that scaling potential into the future, because of how well Yuno's going to work with her. So the damage is basically going to be, if we're going to do a team ranking for this, the damage is a 5 out of 5 on the raw damage side. The survivability, I would say it's like a 2 or 3 out of 5. Augusta can have, like, some dying issues occasionally. Grouping, I would actually give the grouping probably, like, because Augusta can, like, hit everything on the screen pretty easily, and she has some built-in grouping on her attacks, I'll rate the grouping at 4 out of 5. And then when it comes to ease of use, I'll give ease of use like a 4 out of 5 there. But yeah, it's just, once you figure out how to use her, she's very easy to work with. but there are some kinks to figuring out how to get her to work. But she is a lot easier than a lot of other teams in the game. And there are a lot of other teams in the game that have way more problems. Carlotta's a 5 out of 5 for ease of use. Augusta's a 4 out of 5 because she's like melee and can get interrupted. I've never seen a Carlotta get interrupted before. So yeah, that'll be the number 3 ranked team. Now let's talk about the number 2 ranked team. Are y'all ready for this one? We got another dead character. We got 2 dead characters in this one. The number 2 team is going to be the Havoc team. Yes, sirree. Number 2 team is going to be the Havoc team. And this is the way that I'll break down the situation over here. This team is a ramping, scaling team. This team excels in longer, drawn-out fights because of a mechanic that's built into Phrolova's kit called Aftersound. And so essentially, the faster you clear content, the worse this team is. So this team almost has like an inverse sort of relationship with like the TOA, where there's naturally at higher investment, way shorter runs. Because Phrolova has this mechanic called Aftersound that she builds up every single rotation this team makes. And, well, every single time she gets a stack of Aftersound, which is from her teammates activating an Echo skill, she gains crit damage. This stacks up almost infinitely. And so, the longer the fight goes, the more damage this team does. When it's first starting out, when it's initially ramping up, I would say this team's damage is maybe at like a 3.5 to 4 out of 5. When the fight begins, once you get about 30 seconds into the fight, the team's damage is a 4 out of 5. Once you get a minute into the fight, the team's damage is a 5 out of 5, without a doubt. Phrolova gets crit damage scaling over here. She also gains a multiplier buff on the biggest nuke in her kit, Scarlet Coda. Every stack of Aftersound adds a literal multiplier buff, which is fucking crazy, right? The end result is that if you get into like a 2 minute, 1 minute 30 seconds to 2 minutes, I would dare say Phrolova's damage on this 1 out of 5 scale becomes a 6 out of 5. But this is the issue. And I'll just demonstrate it to you with a clear in the TOA. We just talked about how good this team is in like extended, kind of longer, drawn out sort of situations. Let's talk about what the practical, actual results will be for most people. So yeah, all these characters have their signatures and stuff, right? There could be a little bit more investment somewhere else, like she could use more crit rate. I don't really care that much. Let's give this team a bit of a spin and show you all what it looks like on Fleur-de-Lis. And boom. Now we use this. We just did the Phrolova rotation, right, to open up the team. You're seeing over here, right? The damage definitely could be better, right? The damage could definitely be better on that first rotation. You're noticing that even though this is a ramping, scaling character, right? Every boss in the TOA is still gonna die in like 2 rotations. And so the end result is that like this ramping, scaling mechanic, like it doesn't have a chance to work properly. Because you're just gonna be like, well, the boss is dead on the 2nd rotation. So like, all that power budget, right, that was being put into those, I don't even get to go onto Phrolova a 2nd time. So it's like, I only got 1 additional Scarlet Coda, which is this attack, right, that gets heavily buffed. I got to use it only 1 time. So the thing is, she's a scaling character that gets backloaded, but this is kind of the pickle over here. The content doesn't have enough HP for her to truly realize her damage potential. And the only way for her damage potential on the Aftersound side, the stacking up side, to work properly is for either you to have less investment on your teammates or like worse echoes or like worse weapons. So it's kind of just like a mix of like her kit kind of doesn't work that well in TOA, but if there ever is HP inflation, she's probably going to be one of the best performing characters if HP inflation ever occurs. Because then she would be able to use a 2nd rotation and gain even more benefits from her infinite Aftersound stacking. Do you guys kind of see what's going on? Now, adversely, this after-sound stacking mechanic is also why she's the best Whimpering Waves character in the game. Because, guys, when you run this team in WuWa, you're forced to play for a full 2 minutes. You cannot play less than 2 minutes on a WuWa side. And so she just stacks, like, so much after-sound, it's crazy, and just starts one-shotting waves by herself. And that makes her and this team, the Echo Skill team that's spamming those Echo Skills and spamming that after-sound, it is without a doubt the best Whimpering Waves team in the game. And this team, if you're able to play it properly in holograms, is also inherently one of the best hologram teams. You do have to end up playing Rosia in holograms, though, and that's a bit of an issue on its own. Just try rotating with her kit in a fucking hologram. You'll probably just want to uninstall. That's the weakness, right? This holograms can be up to 5 minutes long, but then you gotta end up playing this fucking character in holograms. Probably just use Shorekeeper instead for holos. So yeah, it's just, that is the basis, the cornerstone of the kit. It's really fucking easy to play, aside from handling Rosia's, like, if you can handle getting knocked out of the air during Rosia's tornado and her slams, that's the difficulty curve of this team. Unfortunately, that is one of the biggest pitfalls of this team, and you can just solve it, right, by pulling Rosia C1, or S1, but I don't recommend that. Rankings for this team are as follows. Raw damage. Like I said, it starts at like 3.5, 4, but then goes to 5 the longer the fight goes. Goes to fucking 6, to be honest. It's a 6 in WuWa. I would say a 4.5, maybe 4 to 5 in TOA averaged out. Survivability. Cantarella's healing is pretty good. Phrolova has so many iframes and stagnations in her kit. There's a lot of CC in this team as well. There's not a lot of iframes, but there's a lot of CC. Phrolova stagnates. Cantarella does Hazy Dream. Rosia has tornadoes for like AoE content, but Rosia is definitely the weak link in terms of survivability, and that can cause problems of its own. But you can, however, engineer your Hecate in a way so that she spams her stagnation attack. I think you can like use basic attacker skills to generate certain notes, and you can just spam your stagnation notes to make it easier for Rosia to rotate through, because she will, you know, they'll be stagnated and CC'd so they can't attack her. That's something you can do to like improve the team, but it is a bit of a learning curve. So yeah, I would say ease of use in regards to that survivability note, I would rate it maybe 3.5 to maybe 4 out of 5. It's definitely harder to use than Augusta, but it's easier than some of the other teams, or really the only other team that we have above it. All right, now we got the best team in the game. You guys probably already know what I'm going to be considering the best team in the game. It's time, ladies and gents. This is the best team in the game. In my opinion, I think the Fusion team is without a doubt the best all-rounder in terms of, like, what type of content you can play it in. It's good in TOA, amazing in TOA. It's also amazing in Whimpering Waves. These characters, honestly, when all three of them are put together, they are a jack-of-all-trades tool that can be used in virtually any content in the game, as long as that content is not fusion resistant. It has sustain, it has healing, it has shielding on top of that for fun. It's got quick swap potential if you want to play sweaty. Quick swap potential that the other teams don't have, by the way. You can't quick swap well on Augusta. You can't really quick swap on Phrolova. You can't really quick swap on the Carlotta team. And you can sort of quick swap on the... Sorry, let me just be honest. You can't quick swap on the Cartethyia team because you'll end Chakota's Liberation. So this is the only team in the game, at least in my top 5. This is the only team in my top 5 where you can actively quick swap while also just playing the team in like a human centipede outro order and still fucking pop off. So there's like a beginner way to play the team, and then there's an advanced way to play the team as well. You don't have to put in new characters. You can't really do that in any of the other lineups that I just showed. You're never doing that in any of the other lineups. So yeah, it's just like, well, I'm just gonna be real here, guys. This is the most fun team in the game. It's also the best average performer in the TOA and WuWa combined, because A, the Cartethyia team is probably the best one in TOA. I already said that, right? But it's kind of really fucking bad in WuWa. The Phrolova team is broken in WuWa, but not that great in TOA relative to other teams. This team is like second place in both game modes. And it's by a very small margin that it's second place in both game modes. With Lupa's massive amount of just like built-in like fusion shred, fusion damage, all of that, her insane pack hunt buffs, then her enhanced intro. Then you got like Brant going ahead, coming in, dropping down with the biggest nuke in gacha gaming with his anchor. And then he, like, also heals and shields at the same time while being the biggest damage dealer on the team is, like, this character's just fucking broken. This character's not balanced. If he wasn't that good, the Fusion team wouldn't be that good. But the Fusion team is that good, not really because of, like, Lupa or Changli, but because this character is fucking broken. I think they actually messed up designing his kit because he does everything too well, and the Fusion team shows you how well he does everything. And now we got the last member of the team. You got Changli, right? She just kind of comes in as a recipient of Brand's outro skill, and then she helps buff Lupa a little bit, right? It's like, I would say Changli is actually, like, the weakest member of the team, with, like, Lupa and Brant being more the core, and then Changli is replaceable by, like, Chisha, Encore, basically any other Fusion character in the game that, you know, can deal damage. Changli's the most replaceable person on this team. She's the best option, but, like, this team is still really fucking good, even when you're only using these two. And I think the end result is just, like, well, we'll do a bit of a gameplay demonstration. The end result is that if you only had one team in the game that you could, like, invest in, get all signatures for, all of that, I would just be like, this would be my pick. Because it's best in slot in, like, 2 separate game modes, or close to best in slot. There's ways to, like, level up your gameplay to be, like, more sweaty later on. And you're just able to do so much with this lineup that I don't really think you get a similar experience building other lineups. Like, if you're a person that's looking to get a team that is, like, usable for beginners, but then also a team that you can, like, take to the next level, this is the team. You can't take a Carlotta team to the next level. You can't take an Augusta team to the next level. The floor for those teams is really high, but the ceiling's also really high. The floor for this team is also a little bit lower, but the ceiling is, like, absurdly high for where you can take it. And so it's like a good beginner team that can scale into, like, a sweaty quick swap nerd team too. And I think it's, like, the best of both worlds. And so this is just, like, an example of why I think the team is so amazing. I think we're going against, like, fusion resistant content. There's so many different things that you can do. Let's just do, like, a regular baseline, super simple rotation, right? I'm putting in not too much effort into this bad boy, right? I'm sort of just, like, pressing all my stuff. Got my concerto. Great. I'm going to go on to Brant. I'm just going to hold down my basic attack button. And then go over to Changli, right? And then just do all of her stuff. Awesome. Great, right? Basically, like, Payphone. Where did she go? Payphone is playing right now, right? I'm playing super chill. I'm playing super easy. You gave Brant the wrong weapon? Oh, is that why he's not doing as much damage? Anyways, you get what I'm talking about over here, right? That's like the simple, brain-dead way to play the team, and that team still does really well. Oh my lord, that's why he was not doing the right damage. Oh my god. All right, so let's put Brant's signature back on. Oh, by the way, we also have everybody's sig over here. So Wildfire Mark, Blazing Brilliance, all of that. So now let's go ahead. Let's talk a little bit about what can happen when you're doing some crazy quick swap shit. And this is the thing. I should practice the quick swap on this team more. I just don't, because the regular way to play it is so strong. Let's show you all a little bit of, like, some crazy tech you can actually do. You guys ready? Like, you're just... It's kind of like... You can see over here, right? Why I'm talking about how crazy this team is, right? You can do a lot of fun stuff. And naturally, right, I dropped some buffs over here and everything. I use Concerto like wrong. My DPS is actually lower than what it should be. But this team gives you like so much room to like experiment and try out new things. Like, what is even going on? It's fun. It's fun. You get to practice it. You get to level it up. You get to, like, push the team to its limits. And that's something you can't do with any of those other lineups. The only other team that I'd mention that you can do that with is the Zani, Phoebe, Spectra Rover team. That's the only other team, but that has quite a few other weaknesses. However, I've done a lot of glazing. For this lineup, I gotta talk about some of the cons. This team's sustain is a 5 out of 5. Lupa has a built-in auto dodge that will make it so that when you're hit by an enemy, you'll automatically dodge the attack. Brant also has healing and a shield. However, Lupa's auto dodge can make it so that your attacks disappear. Like your big hits like Brant's Anchor or Changli's Forte. They can just disappear because you'll auto dodge instead of just tanking the hit like you normally would. That can be a little bit frustrating. So, ease of use of this team can range from, like, either, like, a 4 to, like, a 3, depending on how good your timing is. Then it goes to a 1 if you play it quick swap, but you can always play it in an easy way. And the damage, I'll say, for this team, it's a 4.5 out of 5 if you're not quick swapping. It's a 5 if you're quick swapping. Maybe even a 5.5. Maybe a 6 if you're quick swapping well. And that's the thing. It's got the best overall scores to me, with a lot of variability depending on how sweaty you want to play the team. But I view that variability, that flexibility, as actually a plus. The fact that this team has a hard mode and also an easy mode. And not a lot of other teams really have that. Or there's a much bigger drop in performance between hard or easy. This team, the easy mode is really similar to the hard mode in terms of like the overall DPS between just a regular outro rotation and quick swap. And so sometimes it cannot be worth learning it, but the options are always there if you want to try it out. For a DPS increase, other teams just don't really have that. So yeah, that's going to be the rankings for this team. Now, let's do a bit of an overall review of all the different lineups that we just talked about. So, one thing to keep in mind is that these are basically all of the teams that we looked at today. These are the teams that are in the top 5 as well as the honorable mentions. But I do have to be honest about a couple of things on here. This team is expensive. You need a lot of investment to make this team run. This team is expensive as well, but not as expensive as these teams because Rover's a free character. This team technically could be expensive, technically could not be, depending on whether or not you view Shorekeeper with how variable she is, like as a unit that is like you're pulling on this team. Most people, you can already run this with a Varina. Shorekeeper makes it a premium version, but most people are going to have Shorekeeper, right? So it's kind of just like, We'll count this as like 2 because you can use Shorekeeper everywhere else. And then you got this team over here. This team is really fucking expensive too. Really expensive. And then this team, this one of the cheapest ones in the game. Gets more expensive with but it's similar to a Carlotta situation. And then this team, well, if you want it to be at relatively high strength, you want the SIGs of both Zani and Phoebe. If you're willing to give us some of that power, not as expensive, but if you don't, also really fucking expensive. So yeah, it's kind of like the end result is that these are all teams with varying levels of investment, varying levels of prices. If you're looking for the biggest bang for your buck, you gotta go for this team, and you gotta go for this team, right? If I were to talk about biggest bang for the buck, it's these two. Closely followed by the Arrow Erosion team because one of the characters for it is free, and you kind of just need these two to get it done. Chakota doesn't need her weapon. Cartethyia kind of really wants hers, and if that's the lineup that you go, you're pretty much in for a good time. You want at least 2 weapons on this team, and you want at least... Carlotta doesn't really need it, but you want Augusta's weapon or Gion's. And so it's like, all these teams have varying levels of investment. Some are a lot cheaper than others, but at the end of the day, I would just say to players, think of these as like the golden lineups for Wuthering Waves, heading into some of its future versions. And if you have any of like the individual pieces of these lineups, go for it, right? You'll be able to run these teams, see them to like varying levels of success in all the different endgame modes. Some are going to be better than others, But think about it as like, this is like the set combinations, the set pieces that you should be going for. They come in a kit. And when you have only one piece of the kit, you have the Brant, but not the Lupa. You've got the Lupa, but not the Brant. Well, maybe make it a mission after seeing the performance of these and the ratings to fill that out and actually, you know, get that whole team bonus going. So yeah, that'll be that for this one, ladies and gents. Let me know what you all think, if this was helpful, and peace out.